Good afternoon. How are you today? Well, it's beautiful here. Temperature's right. Very slightest wind. It's beautiful out. And today is the day that will remain throughout history as the day a corrupt president was brought to his knees and had to wait upon a lower court judge, a magistrate, not even a U.S. district judge, entitled under Title III of the United States Constitution, who took his plea of not guilty. And in that courtroom was the man who's leading up the team that is bringing him to justice. We're talking about Special Counsel Jack Smith. And that's good stuff. Now, there have been reports all day and I guess all evening, and I'm sorry, but they seem to be rehashing, I don't know, not that much news, and there is other news that we could report. So I'm going to give you my special abbreviated report of the itemized issues that everybody's talking about, but much longer than I'm going to talk about it. I have no idea how long, maybe a few minutes. Number one, no riot. That's good. That's all we have to say about that. The billionaire managed to find a way to get Florida counsel to appear. It's a non-story. It's good. Did we ever think he couldn't get counsel or the court wouldn't work it out some way? End of that. No motion to dismiss was made today. Now, no motion was also not made today to recuse Judge Cannon. That's bad, in my opinion. You let these things fester, and then all of a sudden, you say, well, you kind of waived it. You didn't do anything about it. You have to act upon it when it occurs. So I said this was a fly in the ointment the other day. It continues to be a fly in the ointment. And if any of you think that she's changed her ways, well, when I was younger, they used to say, we got a bridge in Brooklyn that you could buy for just a few pennies. The government wants a speedy trial. Well, the other side does not. How are they going to slow it down? Well, she may help them even without motions, but the first motion is going to be about whether or not the government can use all the statements of Corcoran from his dictated notes and what he said in the grand jury. Now, we're not going to go over the crime-fraud exception, but that's what it's all about. Was what he had to say subject to that exception, which vitiates the privilege, if the privilege is being used by the client to conceal ongoing wrongdoing? And there are several instances, but one of the clearest that you find in the indictment is the conversation with Corcoran by Trump, in which he's saying, well, you got all the exhibits there that we're going to turn over, and if you look at it tonight in your room, and any one of them concern you, just pluck it out. So his state of mind was, A, he knew what the law was, and B, he used his attorney, Norton. Now, what else do we got going on here? By the way, that's not going to go very long because we already have a law decision by the judge in Washington, D.C., Beryl Howell, who at one time was the counsel to the Senate Judiciary Committee. She was very smart, and she's a measured judge, and her opinion will stand the test of Trump's team again, since it'll be basically the same lawyers probably. There's talk about the Presidential Records Act. Can we use that to defend ourselves and say it doesn't have any serious sanctions for that? Well, yeah, but it's not talking about top secret and classified information. It also says that even gifts and things like that, well, I'm sorry, you got to surrender them and leave them at the White House. You don't get to take them with you. And the more precise statute here that applies is the Espionage Act, because it relates to defense matters that can compromise America, And the specific category of documents that they identified in the indictment all go to that point. You know, talking about nuclear concerns, talking about war plans of other nation states, ours perhaps, for how we'd approach Iran, things like that. So the president discussed those cases, and that's a problem, and that's why he's indicted, and that's why he concealed it, because he knew. And he said in one of his conversations, also reported in the indictment, that he knew he couldn't show it, but he did, and he wanted to tell him about it, though he knows he can't legally. So that was sweet, but that's who he is. And so what did our fearless leader do after he left the court? Well, he went to a nearby restaurant with his entourage of dark black cars, and got out and sort of had a mini rally in the in this local restaurant. And right next to him, working with him, was his butt man. Now, I'm not making this up to be annoying, but that's what we called them on the Hill. And what it really is say you're working for the Speaker of the House, and you're wandering around, and the members come up to you and say, could we do this, could we do that, could we do the other thing? Well, if the Speaker says yes, the butt man, the person right there, right behind her, would write it down, and then they'd execute it later. So it's kind of a mobile decision-making machine. And now, our boy, Naut, he served, but not in this high-fired position. That is to say, if Trump wanted something, he got it. So he was like a man Friday. Some have described him as a butler instead of a butt man, but that's what he is. He's a butt man. It's an accepted term that's used on the Hill, and it means you're so close to the person who's depending upon you, you're there to write down the things that he or she would forget. So that's what that's about. Well, Trump went to this local restaurant and campaign, and his co-conspirator in the charge is helping him. And this is ironic because the court said you can't be talking about the case with the witnesses in the case and or people involved in the case. And that's got to apply, I suppose, to his co-conspirator, although they could enter into a joint defense agreement, and that would take care of that by waiving the conflicts between them. And a co-defendant is not exactly the same thing as a witness in the case. So that's it. Maybe I dallied a little bit in my description, but for 8 minutes or 9 minutes or whatever the time is, you have been brought up to date, and you can watch a movie tonight instead of watching people talk about the same thing all evening. The one beef I have, and this is my editorial comment on the mixed fact and opinion I've already rendered, is who are these people who suggest the most dire possible outcomes, whether it be a riot or shooting or Trump's going to walk out the door. I had somebody online swear that the Supreme Court had already thrown out the case. We don't need these people. We don't need Soros. I know, an Irishman talking a little Yiddish, but we just don't need nonsense in our public debate right now. And, you know, it's on the air, it's in the ether, and I think it's a problem. So, that's it. 8 minutes, constituted information about the most wonderful day ever since, in 2016, the man with orange hair and orange skin came down an escalator and immediately attacked minorities, particularly Hispanics. And we still have him, and he's done a lot of damage. But it seems to me that we've turned a corner, and we just got to help that vehicle make that turn. Help that vehicle get this man where he belongs. On trial, convicted, and in custody somewhere. And come on, all you other people, bring your cases. In Georgia, do it. In D.C., go back there, Jack Smith, and get that case together. In New York, don't stop the civil case. Go for it. And Carol has another case. Go for it. Let's bury this guy as he's tried to bury America. Let's punish him for being a traitor. Let's call him and make him accountable for all the terrible things he's done, including the fact that you can't find any serious news except something that has to do with the man-child who would be king. So, that's it. Glad you could join me on my trek through the Cathedral of Trees. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.